Good morning. I am starting to really look forward to these book readings in the morning. So my name's Allison. I'm here to talk about The Era of the True Creator, which is a book that I just finished writing and released. It's now published and available on amzn.to. And so each day I'm going through the chapters and discussing a little bit about what the chapters mean to me, kind of giving you an overview of what's come through and why each chapter is in the book. And I'm open to answering any questions. I also have developed what I'm calling the True Creator Mastery course, and that is the course that goes along with the book, and we'll be meeting online and talking about the book and getting some feedback and some deeper understanding into each of the chapters, and then also having some sort of fun take-home assignments each week that go more in depth about the chapters and help to really integrate what we're learning throughout the book. So I find this book really meaningful because I myself have learned through it. To give you an overview of the book process, I know I've done this in previous videos, but this book was really given to me as a channeled experience, and I spent about 2 years writing it because even though I was given an overview of each chapter and an understanding of the chapters, I didn't quite know, I didn't fully have an integrated understanding of each chapter, so I had to really live it. So over the past 2 years, I've really lived what's in the book, and now I've gone through the process. So it's really an initiation process to help us move forward in awakening. So I know that it's going to be helpful for a lot of people, just as it has been for me. So speaking of initiation, the symbol on the front of the book was also given to me as an initiation symbol, and so I'm passing that along to you. And each chapter also has a symbol on it. So today we're going to go into chapter 2, which is called Dramatic Creation. And dramatic creation has this symbol. And at the beginning of each chapter, those symbols can be meditated on to help integrate and understand more deeply what's being presented in that chapter. So dramatic creation, I'm going to read the little poem that's at the beginning. Move forward in this new dawning of human consciousness and expansion. To be multidimensional is your birthright. So when I say to be multidimensional is your birthright, this chapter is really about the different dimensions that we exist in, both consciously and unconsciously, here on Earth. And so in the chapter Dramatic Creation, what I'm talking about in this chapter, and what was presented to me to talk about in this chapter, is really that we're multidimensional. And for a long time, for most of our existence in human history, we're aware of just the lower dimensions, which is part of the whole experience that we're here for. There's really nothing wrong with that. So we're here to understand the physical dimensions. And also some of us get into what was presented to me as the fourth dimension, which is the dream space, the psychic realms, and things like that, time-based reality. And then what we're all collectively moving into now is an opening and an awareness of the fifth dimension. But that doesn't mean that we lose the other ones. It means that we integrate and become able to sort of move between the dimensions with our own will, and to really begin to understand where we need to operate from at any given time, and to be able to have mastery within those realms, right? So I'm just going to multiple dimensions with each choice and each movement we make. So that's just kind of the introduction, talking about how, yes, we may exist within the physical realm. And here I am, in a physical body speaking. And what we're really doing is we're existing on multiple dimensions at once. And the beautiful thing that happens with the awakening process is that we become more highly in tune with the different dimensions that we're existing in. So we can be more conscious and exist within the fifth dimension while also in human form. I also talk a little bit, I discuss each of the levels, each of the dimensions. And of course, there's so much more than what I introduced in the book. And I say that here, that the descriptions that I talk about in the book are really just a brief overview to give us an idea of what we're doing, because so often we're not aware of all of our dimensionalities at the same time. And so this is just a brief overview to give us an idea of all of the things that we are, all of the places that we are moving within, and just a jumping off point as a way to discuss how we can be conscious, because being conscious is really going to make us masterful in our creation. So I'll read this next little part. The process of ascension is unique to each of us. At a certain point, the consciousness of our true purpose in life drives us back out into the world with a deep desire to connect to humanity and to be seen as we truly are. With all that we have learned and developed within, we now have the ability to bring new developments and ways of existing to the planet and serve in our highest capacity by bringing the joy and love that we now carry. In this process, we are further activated and understand on continuously deeper levels what is occurring within our being, compelling us to seek to activate more. I think I'll stop there. There's a lot in this chapter. It goes more in depth about the different dimensions, and it also talks about how we can start to be of service and how we can be more aware and bring ourselves up into a multidimensional awareness. Because so often, another topic that I introduced in this chapter is this idea of the emperor with no clothes. So when we awaken, often we see energy patterns, we see things in the psychic realm, and we may be really frightened or sort of freaked out by what we're seeing. And what happens as we develop this awareness is that we're able to move peacefully through these dimensions. We're able to say, okay, I see it, but that doesn't mean that it has to be anything to be afraid of. And we integrate the awareness. So the emperor with no clothes is this sort of idea that we become very aware of our energy and of others' energy. And it can be kind of scary because it's like going into a room that the lights have been off the whole time and now we flip them on. And there's a lot that we haven't seen, and we can deem anything new as scary. So often this happens. I'm actually going to tell a little story right now about something that happened when I went through my awakening, and because I feel that this is very important. So when I went through my awakening, I saw the reptilians. At one point, I went to sleep and I did a sort of cord-cutting meditation, and I went to sleep that night without really being aware of what I had done. And I was woken up in the middle of the night by this feeling that there were beings trying to attack me. And it was very, very scary and very real. I saw them. I'd never seen anything like this before. There were beings coming up from the basement of the house that I was living in, and I could see it very vividly. I was awake. And so I ended up running upstairs and sleeping in my roommate's room, and I was just really frightened. I later told my friend about this experience, and she said, oh, I described the beings that I saw, and she said, oh, you saw the reptilians. And then I looked into that. What did that mean? And I heard all of the stories that people had been telling about the reptilians and the reptilian race. So I don't want to go too much into that part, because the important thing that came to me, the really important thing that came to me, happened after that occurrence. And a couple months later, I was just walking through my house, and it instantly downloaded into me, there's more. Stop paying attention to that. Stop being afraid of that. And because I had been thinking about this experience of seeing the reptilians, and how, it was kind of a dramatic experience. And so what came to me was, stop thinking about that. Stop looking at it that way. There's more. So over the next little bit, what I discovered was that, and this is a little bit hard to describe, but what I discovered was that really what we're doing is integrating. And just as people that are on this earth are all, doing different things, and we might call some of it bad and we might call some of it good, the same thing is happening within other dimensions. So here on earth, in human form, once we become aware of the reptilians, we look at them and we say, they're bad, they're doing all these things. We get involved in the conspiracy theories around it. But really what's important is to integrate, because none of that has any power over us as infinite beings. And so I was really shown to stop paying attention to the dramatic aspect of life. I was shown to stop paying attention to, the conspiracy theories and fighting and all of these wars. I also saw the war in heaven, which was really intense. I had a lot of really intense visionary experiences during the beginning of my awakening. And I was really shown, this was me passing through the fourth dimension. This was me passing into the awareness of the fourth dimension. So it became very real, very visceral experiences. But then there's more. There's more. And that's the fifth and the sixth and beyond. And there's infinite dimensions. There's infinite realities. But what happens is we become aware of these things, and sometimes we kind of get stuck in this dramatic paradigm of fighting the bad, of being part of this whole good and evil scheme. Even as people who are awakening and ascending, we may, fall into this this sort of cycle of, we've got to fight the bad. Now that we're awakened, we've got to fight the bad. And really what that does is it perpetuates that paradigm. So what we're meant to do is integrate, love, don't be afraid of anything, which is a lot to say, but once we tap into our eternal nature, then that's much easier to do. And we can see it all as a play. We can see it all as we're all playing different parts, and we're all learning from our parts and others' parts. And that doesn't mean that we need to be a part of it. It doesn't mean that we need to jump into somebody else's story, or really feel like, that's something that I need to really discover or play with. We all have our own trajectory and our own purpose, but to not be afraid of it, to not focus our energy and attention on fighting the bad, is really what I'm trying to bring through in this chapter called Dramatic Creation. So, all right, the era of the true creator, that was a lot of information. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. And this book is available on Amazon. Ooh, had a hard time talking. And also the True Creator Mastery course. That is up and running. So I'd love for you to join me on that. All right, lots of blessings. Have a fantastic day. See you tomorrow, 9 a.m. Pacific time. Bye.